All right, we are going to export an SAT from Rhino and import it into Revit. This is the format that I use when I have some complex curved surfaces that I've created in Rhino. So make sure that your surface is a closed poly surface. It's watertight, airtight, doesn't have self-intersections, doesn't have manifold edges. It's just no open edges, that kind of thing. Revit will see it, but it won't see it as a solid. So you want to make sure that you've done that. The other thing I would recommend is just center it on 0, 0. So at the center of Rhino, it just makes it easier in the import-export process. And then what you want to do is pick your model, go to File, Export Selected, and we are going to use the ACIS SAT, which is right above the Adobe Illustrator. I realize it's a little bit out of your screen, but I'm going to pick it. And I'm just going to save over this test SAT. There are options, but you don't need to mess with the default if you don't feel the need. If you're interested, you can explore them. But I'm just click Save and say, yes, please replace this. And then just accept the default settings and click OK. And it exports that from Rhino. So it's actually a fairly straightforward process. I am going to close Rhino. And I have Revit open here, and I have a project that I've set up to use. And so I'm going to click and open that project. And it's basically a template that I've set up to accept these imports. So I can very quickly see how it's working and look at the plans and sections. So when you're importing an object into Revit, I like to be in the site plan. So I'm going to go to my site plan. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I have a scope box and some other things set up in this template to make things a little easier for me. So when we import something into Revit that is not a native Revit model, we want to categorize it so Revit can understand what it is and can make plans, sections, elevations, various types of really parametric views from it. If you don't categorize it, Revit will bring it in as a 3D object, but it will just kind of stare at it and go, I don't know what it is. So we're going to trick Revit a little bit by going to the Architecture tab and Component and Model in Place. And this will allow you to select a category. So we're going to use Generic Model, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to give it a name. And now I'm going to insert it, or go to the Insert tab and actually link it. This is going to link it, and Revit's going to see it as a generic model. So I'm just going to go to Link CAD. And I would recommend linking unless you really need to insert it. And it's just easier, the linking, it's cleaner, and you can update the link. So I'm going to pick this curved SAT, which is the same as the Rhino model that you saw. You may need to come down to Files of Type and pick SAT. I think it's set to DWG by default. It's going to go 000 to 000 from Rhino to Revit, so that's why it's nice to have it set up that way. You can do like a manual base point and just pick where to put it, but I would recommend just sort of keeping it clean and doing origin to origin. We're going to leave the colors the same. We're going to bring the one layer in. It's going to auto-detect the unit, so you need to be working full size. And it's going to place it on our level plan 1. So I'm just going to click Open here, and it's going to think for a minute, and it's going to plunk that model down right in the middle of our view. And we're not really going to do anything else. We're just going to finish this sketch and click the big green, and now we have the 3D model in here. So if I go to my 3D default view, right, there it is. I'm in a wireframe. I'm going to come down here and change it to shaded so you can see it, and maybe turn off the shadows. So there it is right there. Turn the shadows back on. And now let's take a look and see how Revit is able to section and make plans of this thing. So if I come over here to my views, my project browser, my floor plan views, I have Plan 1 and Plan 1 schematic. Plan 1 is just going to be the very simple, straightforward view with everything turned on, and Plan 1 schematic is going to be, very cleaned up and sort of have a gray fill and just be what I would actually want to print. So in Revit, you can have various different settings for the same view. So you can have your messy working view that's actually updating to your schematic view that you're printing. So again, here's like a plan 2 that has everything in it, and then a plan 2 schematic that is cleaned up and what I would actually print. So how's it creating this plan 2? I'm going to close my hidden windows. For every view that you open, it opens it on top of the other one. So I'm just going to close all those views that I opened previously. And it just sits behind that one. And then I'm going to come down and we're going to look at our south schematic, our south elevation. And I'm going to type WT. So right now the only two views I have open are the elevation and the floor plan. So when I WT, it tiles them, and when I ZA, it actually zooms extents for both of them. And I'm going to zoom in on this elevation. Now, if I come and look at this elevation, I've got a plan 2, and that's the floor plan 2. It's actually going 4 feet above that and sectioning through the model. So if I were to pick this plan 2 and move it, and I'm using my arrow keys, you're going to see the plan update, which is actually pretty cool, right? So you can dynamically adjust this model however you would like it. You can do, I'm just doing it with the arrow keys, like I said, but you can come in, whoops, pain in my existence, these little blue dots, but you can come in and, you can actually set this to 15 feet or, and it'll pop it down to 15 feet. So you can choose to do that. Just remember that it's using plan 2 as 0. So this is 0, this line, and then it goes up 4 feet and cuts across. And you can adjust that, and we'll talk about it later. Okay. So there's the plans. Let's look at the sections real quick. So I'm going to close that guy, come back up here, and I'll just go to my plan 2 view, and I'll close this guy. And let's sort of zoom in on this plan 2, and we'll pick, one of these sections. How about this section? So I'll double click on this. This is a section view that I've already placed in here, and anything that's blue is a hyperlink. So even though you may think of these as just notations, they're actually parametrically connected to the view, and it's basically an annotation symbol that is bound to a parametric view range. So I'm going to double click on this section head, and it's going to take me into that section so you can see that. And then I'm going to go to WT, window tile, and ZA, zoom both. And now I can come in and do basically the same thing I did before. So you won't be surprised if I pick that and use my arrow keys to move that around. Now this section has some transparency set to it, so you'll be able to see through it a little bit. It's a view template setting or a visibility graphics setting, but you can see how that section works pretty much exactly like the floor plan, which floor plans are sections anyway. So basically I have this template set up, so whatever I put in here, it just kind of sections it all up for me, which is quite nice, and then I can go in and adjust it. Now, I also have obviously set up plans and schematic views, working in schematic view, so I have a little flexibility that way as well. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to show you while this is actually an importing video, and I don't want to go too long, but these are views. There are also things called sheets, which is like a little layout area or a tiny little InDesign. So I'm going to come down here to my sheets, double click on composition. So I've set up this sheet, and I've placed some of the views, and this view got kind of wonky, so I'm going to delete it for right now, and we'll just live with these 3. And so I have, some 3D views, a plan, that section, and then I have done a quick rendering up here and set them on a sheet, and now I can print them. Now the nice thing is that if I update anything, like if I had updated that section, it would automatically update here and here for the plan and section. The other thing that you can do, which is pretty interesting, is I can replace that model that I just put in here, and it will section the new model up and just automatically update it to the sheets and all the views. So let's do that, and then we'll be done. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Insert tab, And I'm going to go to Manage Links, which allows me to update my links. Remember, we linked that file. So if I go to my CAD formats under Manage Links, you'll see that curved SAT right there, right? And if I pick that, there's a reload from. And I'm going to click on Reload From, and I'm going to pick another version of this, and I'm going to click Open. And it's going to think for a minute, and sometimes it will blow up on this, but not often. And if I click OK, I'm clicking OK on the Manage Links right now. You're going to watch this guy, you see it update. So now if I zoom in, this is a updated plan, an updated section, and I can zoom in and take a look at these updated sectional slices. If I go to my 3D view, now you can see this is quite a different model. Let me turn off my shadows and sort of zoom around it. But you can see it's been cut up quite a bit. So I just wanted to show you how quickly you could do different variations, and then, go to your composition page, and you would have to redo, it will not redo the rendering. Obviously, you would have to redo the rendering, but now you could just go to File and Print, and if you do a preview, right, whoops, let's close that. Let's go to File and Print. And I would have to update and create a custom sheet for this, which I actually should do. So it's actually just squashing it onto that one sheet. I go to Setup, and it's doing a letter. Let's do a tabloid, and we're going to fit it to page for right now. But I'm going to click OK, and then if I go to Preview, it will give you a preview of what that's going to look like. If you want to, you would have to go in and set up, this is a 12 by 24 inch page, and you have to set up a custom sheet for that, okay? And remember, this is just a preview. We could go through and print it, and it would print it out quite well. So, all right, so that's the quick introduction to importing in Revit and templates, and we'll go over some more specific things a little later.